Destination Newry, it is the morning programme. Good morning, Newry and morning the world. Going live from the heart of Newry. Delighted to welcome Edith Logue from the Northern Ireland Environment Agency. It's the first time we've had someone from the agency in.
Oh, goodness.
Tell people in the shortest possible way you can, what is the NIEA?
Well, Rowan, we cover quite a lot of things. Myself, I'm actually from the Historic Monuments Unit, so I'm an archaeologist. But we're within the Historic Environment Directorate in the agency, so we look after archaeology and also listed buildings. But the agency-wide also looks after natural heritage, environmental protection.
Yeah.
And that's
How do you find natural heritage? What is natural heritage?
That's everything around us, really.
It's
sort of the wildlife, the countryside. We do a lot of work with biodiversity and you know, protected species and that sort of thing.
Were you responsible for the return of the red kite, for example?
Possibly I'm not sure.
Because it was quite in there, and you reintroducing birds and eagles and all that sort of stuff. There's huge things going on out in South Armagh in that regard.
Yeah,
the Ring of Gullion and all of that. I remember once going on a safari to find, what were they called? Pine martens.
Oh, okay.
And we found them.
Brilliant.
And we ringed them.
Yeah.
And we traced them and tracked them and all the rest. We did that for television some years back. So it's strong. Are you getting good funding? You have plenty of programs happening.
We have lots of programs happening. We do a lot of statutory legislation things, you know, a lot of the environment legislation we go through our agency, but we also do a lot with planning service as well as consultation planning service.
Does that mean that if I want to make a big change to my castle, that you will tell me whether I may or may not do so?
Yes, absolutely. It could fall under a number of things. It could be listed building. It could be a scheduled monument. Even just alterations to historic parks and gardens. We would. Liaise with planning service over those issues.
That's all to be done there. We have a gem, a jewel in the crown, and it's the keep at Narrowwater. There's great stories about it, and it's down at, we would call it loosely Narrowwater Castle, but it's not. It's the keep. The castle is back a little bit, but that was the original keep where the archers would stand with their bows and their arrows, keep an eye out from the turrets at enemy coming in and deal with them.
Well, actually, the keep itself, the earliest recorded mention that we have of the present Tower House and Bawn, as we refer to them, is actually from 1560. So the keep itself was built around that period. We have records that suggest that the English government sort of paid a subsidy for the construction of the Bawn and the keep for the use of it to protect the Newry River.
Yes, of course.
They would have a small garrison in there at the time.
So it wasn't a kind of country house, it was a garrison?
No, it was more of a garrison. There would have been, well, in its earlier time it was purely a garrison, but by 1580 it was actually owned by the McGuinness family, who also at that time had Dundrum Castle. So at that stage there may have been more lords and ladies living in it, but it still would have served a purpose of protecting the Newry River. There's always been some sort of defensive structure on the Newry River from I think 11, 12, something. Whenever the Normans came, they built the Motte, which is just further down the road towards Warren Point. And again, there was a keep on top of it, and the sole purpose of that was to protect their interests on the Newry River.
You're an archaeologist.
I am an archaeologist.
It would seem to me that such a rich building with all its provenance must be very fertile ground for an archaeologist.
The castle, the keep itself, it's very interesting. We've done a number of conservation schemes on the keep in recent times.
You've done good work on it. You've repaired it, you've kept it going and all the rest of it.
The first time I was properly down around it, it was quite damp and wasn't very well looked after. It needed a lot of repair work. So a lot of that work has been carried out over the last few years.
That's right.
And the keep was actually reopened last summer.
It's no longer damp.
No, it should be okay. Well, with buildings like that, there's always an element of it because they were never, they were built from stone and they never had like
And the
central
ocean.
heating and things
And
like that.
the ocean banging on the walls
Yeah,
outside.
exactly.
Because you're right up there for instance the high tide mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely there. So, what kind of things would one find if there was an archaeological dig there? Or indeed, has there been?
I'm not sure that there actually has been an excavation at the keep itself, not certainly in recent times. I guess that if we were looking for something in the outer Bon, perhaps you would find the evidence of buildings that would have been in there to support the keep whenever it was in its heyday, whenever maybe the garrison was there, and later times you would expect to find small buildings associated with that, like little storehouses, maybe some sort of kitchen or storage or that sort of thing. So you would find evidence of those. Those were all wooden structures, so perhaps with like straw roofs. You see a lot of, if you're familiar with any of the historical records from that time, you have Bartlett drawings.
Oh yes, I've heard of the Bartlett drawings.
Yeah, he followed the English around during the 9 Years' War and recorded a lot of the sites that he came across. I don't think there's a record of Narrowwater Castle, but certainly whenever you see records of sort of places like Dungannon, you see these little sort of wattle and dub structures with natural roofs and
lots and lots of
thatched
but those
roofs
would,
and
in your terms as an archaeologist, a lot of that would have disappeared. You maybe have the post holes.
You get the post holes from those, but that's interesting itself. But in terms of material, you would expect to find a lot of the sort of post-medieval pottery from that period. Metal objects, coins, those are the sort of things that commonly survive. Lead shot. At that stage, they wouldn't necessarily have been using bow and arrows. It would have been more pistols and rifles and things.
I remember living in the castle itself in Narrowwater, and it struck me then that mankind, we're not all that different through the centuries.
No,
because what I was doing, I was taking the ashes out of my fire, I was putting them in the ash pile outside, and the bones of my chickens and roasts and all the rest of it, they would be put out into the ash pile, and the whole lot would be taken then up into the forest and dumped. So we're creating stuff for the archaeologists of tomorrow.
Modern middens, absolutely.
Modern middens.
Well, you would expect to find a lot of that evidence if you have, if you come across the areas where they would have used for the rubbish pits. You would maybe find evidence of, as you say, animal remains, bones. We also have a lot of archaeobotanical evidence. So that
What's
would be
archaeobotanical evidence?
That's like taking samples from the soil and analysing them for pollen samples.
That's the two linked, the archaeo and the bio.
Together. Absolutely. So you can take the pollen samples, or even if you find grain samples, we find quite a lot of those.
Could you grow those again?
I'm not sure that you could. Sometimes they have already been burned and that sort of thing. So from that evidence, you can find what they've been eating. You can also get good radiocarbon dates that'll actually date the settlement. Although with somewhere like Narrowwater Castle, we obviously have a good there's a good provenance there, a good record.
Do you know the story of Lysara at the castle?
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Excellent. Yes,
it's very, very short. Lysara was the daughter of the lord of the area, the big man, and it was Lysara fell in love with a lowly fellow, maybe even a fellow from another clan, another tribe, and Lysara, she was one of the Halls who owned the big estate, and Lysara and her boyfriend made off and got ready to make off one night in a boat from the castle keep to run away together to the medieval equivalent of Gretna Green, or whatever it was. And as the tide came rushing in and the moon sort of slung its height into the sky and the clouds flew past the moon to the left and the right, the archers on the battlements took aim. And the arrow flew and went into the back of her lover. He fell out of the boat capsized, and he drowned. He was dead anyway. Lysara was washed up on the shore, broken-hearted, wishing beyond all wishes that she had died with her loved one. So she was taken back by the Lord and held and put in the castle. until the day came she could take it no more. And on a similar night, she took herself to the top of the battlements where you will be on Saturday, to the very top. She looked out, and there in the middle of the Narrows, at the half-tide mark, she saw her lover, ghostly, walking across the water and calling to her. And Lasara jumped into his arms and into her death.
Crikey.
And from that day to this, if the moon is right and the night is dark enough and you listen carefully enough, you will hear the cry of Lasara as she fell from the balcony, from the very top turret of the Narrowwater Keep.
Crumbs. That's quite creepy.
That's my story. There you are. You got it here. That's the Lasara story. It's supposed to be true. I don't know at all. Now, you're having a Tudor weekend there.
Well, it's on Sunday. Our event on Sunday is called A Time to be Tudor. We're basically using our very accomplished living history
What time
people.
is that happening at?
It's from 1 to 5
There's
on Sunday
I have an
afternoon.
interview. You know what's coming in on Sunday?
What's that?
You must know.
No.
The Saga Pearl cruise liner.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right.
So
yeah.
you should be, but if you make contact with Warren Point Shipping, with Mark and Rory at Warren Point Shipping, and get them to lay on a visitation for your Tudor event.
Gosh, that sounds great.
And I'm actually boarding the ship at 5 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Brilliant.
So I will have the captain make an announcement to all his people, his 1,000 people coming ashore, that you're there and there's a Tudor event.
That would be
so
super.
I will do that for you.
That
I will
would be
definitely do
really
that.
super.
Without a doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be quite a good event. We've lined up, as I say, our well-accomplished living history people. They'll be coming along in Tudor dress, both Gaelic and English. We're talking more of the gentry rather than the normal day soldier. So
yes, I think we don't want
we
those
do a lot of
rude and smelly fellows. We don't want
we
that.
do a lot of the sort of soldiers with weapons at some of our other sites. So we thought that Narrowwater
more
deserved
genteel, nicer,
a little bit more,
a nicer class of archaeology.
Absolutely.
Really, yes.
So we're going to have music in the first instance with sort of original music played on, authentic instruments like the hurdy-gurdy and the lute.
The lute,
we
the
will
mandolin
have,
or whatever.
absolutely,
all that kind of thing.
Food.
There's also the lyre. The lyre.
Yes.
Don't ask me to spell it.
He may have one of those too. He's pretty accomplished and he's quite good at getting people up dancing. Which is the main aim. We'll have food and recipes from that period and other domestic crafts. We will have our gentleman French swords master, who's quite dashing and will be coming along to teach us the new Italian form of sword fighting.
Wow, there could be duels fought on the shores of the Logue.
He's more of a master. He's more in the teaching capacity.
Yes,
and we will also have other lords and ladies milling around, and our barber surgeon.
Yes,
who I think will be quite the attraction in himself. He comes along with all his medical instruments and paraphernalia of the day and tells people about what he does and the medicine that he does at that time and how he tests people for their medical ailments. So it should be quite entertaining.
So it's running from 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock to 5.
To 5. You see, our folk are coming in at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So it's no bad thing to tie the two together.
Absolutely. No,
and
that sounds wonderful.
we'll tell the people now about both events. So first of all, you have the Saga Pearl 2 being brought into Warren Point by Mark and Rory of Warren Point Shipping. They're coming in. The Saga Pearl 2 will arrive in the docks at Warren Point, this great cruise liner. The first time ever it occurred, and it will arrive there at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. Saga Pearl 2. So Warren Point is en fete, if you like, on the Sunday for it. And we're hoping that lots and lots and lots of folk will come down to welcome in the guests. Now, once they come ashore and have done their bits and pieces, there's a 12 o'clock bit of pantomime going on and acting. Then, those who come to Warren Point on board the Saga Pearl 2, and those who come to Warren Point to welcome those who come to Warren Point on board the Saga Pearl 2, can perambulate in true Tudor style, out to the Narrow-Water Keep, where at 1 o'clock the great event of the past unfolds.
Kicks off. Yeah.
I think that's great.
It sounds fab.
We're going to have a good. We're going to have a
I
good
think it'll
Sunday.
be a good
What
Sunday.
you've obviously checked the weather.
I think it's to be okay on
I think
Sunday.
it's to be okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
to be quite warm and maybe a few showers, but
Will
not
people
much.
be able to get some food there? Will you have a barbecue or anything?
No, I don't. Well, we do have some traditional food there, but I'm not really sure that it's in the vein of being
Yeah.
catered as such.
No, well, sure, if
but
people
it's-
bring their own picnic basket,
yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
else,
Yeah,
that's
there's
the
plenty
thing
of
to
space
do.
there.
Right. Shall we say farewell to the people? We're
Okay.
coming to the end of our time. It's been a joy having Edith Logue with me from the Northern Ireland Environment Agency. Thank you very much.